Okay, moving on. Here I have the codes written out for the other function that we'll be looking at within the forcats package. So we'll look at the FCT underscore drop, that's factor draw underscore drop. So we're going to be using this function to drop factors and the levels within a factor that we actually don't want to focus on while doing our analysis. So what I want to do here is I want to create, we look at first the levels. The number of levels we have in here is 13. So we can look at the various levels that we have. So okay, so I'll copy that out. So I'm using one of the tables that I created while we were going through the class. So I'll use this, run this. So we have 13 levels within the comedian variable. So, but we want to focus on the first 8. So that's the significant ones that we want to focus on. So now I'm going to create a vector to capture that. That the vector name will be v underscore comedians. So I want to run the line of code. So now I have it there. So now I want to filter out the levels that we want. So any levels corresponding to any of the values within the vector that we created here will be returned back to us. So and we're going to save it as a new table called viewers by comedian underscore factor underscore drop. So that's where we're using the filter. So we're filtering out comedians that are within this vector. So I'll run this line of code. So let's look at carefully at the number of levels that is going to be returned back to us from the new table that we created. So look at that. That's wonderful. We actually have, we filter out only eight levels. Let's look at the table. Okay, so you can see we have 8 levels here, but R is seeing what the levels that we have within this column as 13. That means still recognizing the other levels. So what we need to do is, okay, first of all, let's visualize. So if we look at it, we're having what we requested for, that's 8 levels. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, but behind the scene, R is still seeing 13 levels, which can affect our analysis when we're using it maybe in machine learning models, statistical techniques. So we need to take out those levels that we don't need for analysis. So okay, sorry, I didn't share my screen. The plot. So okay, you can see we have all the 8 levels there. So, but behind the scene, just like I said, R is still seeing 13 levels for the comedian variable. So when we're using it within machine learning models or statistical techniques, it's going to have effect on it. So we need to take out and drop those levels that we don't need for analysis. So that's where the function factor underscore drop comes in. So the next thing is we want to drop those levels. So I will run this line of code and then we look at the levels that are remaining. So now we have only 8 levels now. So no matter how it's displayed, what our system model or statistical techniques will be seeing now is 8 because we've dropped the unused ones. So moving on, we want to look at all these functions, how to use them within our plot. although we're still going to go more into detail when we get into the data visualization class. So, but if you look at my codes here, we can still, okay, I just want to make sure I'm using, you can see my screen. Okay, now you can use all these functions within the ggplot function. So you might not want to do it within your data set, so you can go ahead and use them within the ggplot function, and you still get the same result for your visualization. So you make use of the pipes, and you get virtually the same thing. So let me okay, let me use one of the okay. So I'll use this comedian. I think viewers by comedian. Let's see if this works. Because we've created so many tables here now. So okay, good. This works. So you can see when we created this the table viewers underscore by this, okay, we have them as factor now. So but we can still do all the reorderings, but we didn't reorder while we created the table. So all the reordering, releveling based on frequency, all can be done within the ggplot before visualization. So before creating the plot actually. So moving on, I want to demonstrate the use of factor underscore reorder to. The first one that we looked at was reordering by just one variable. Now we want to look at reordering based on two variables. So I can use this because the factor underscore reorder to works with two quantitative, is going to reorder based on two quantitative variables. So they have to be quantitative. So we're talking about integers and numeric values. So here I want to use a package called Gapminder, which I've installed. So you can go ahead and install it. But I'm going to load it here. So I've loaded that. So I want to get we have a data set there, a data frame. So we're going to create that and use that as gapminder underscore df. So I've drawn that line of code. So I'm selecting, I want to filter out only countries. Okay, let's have a look at the table itself. Okay, gapminder. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we have 6 variables here. So we have a column for a variable called country, continent. We have others like year, life expectancy, population, then GDP. So we want to filter out some certain countries to help us with our analysis. So now we are looking at how many countries. We want to filter out only 5 countries. Then we drop the other levels. Excuse me. So this I'm going to save as another table. So I want to use a library called Grid Extra here, so that I will create 2 plots that we're going to look at the 2 different ones before we can appreciate the factor underscore reorder to. So I'll run this line. So now the first plot that I want to create is I'm creating a line plot. So we're going to use the geom underscore line. So I'll save that as plot 1. There's no reordering here, but the second one we want to reorder based on the year and the life expectancy. So the country is going to be rearranged based on that. So I would save that as well as plot 2. So now let's look at the grid, the plots now. So I'll zoom. So I'll share my screen. So now you can see we have the first one, there's no reordering, then while the second has reordering based on two variables, that's the year and the life expectancy, which are both available on the x and the y axis. So now here the countries are there, but they're not reordered. But here we have them reordered. You can see there's a change in the ordering now. So that's how we use the reorder to. That's the factor underscore reorder to. So I'll go back to RStudio. So the next thing we want to look at recoding our levels. So maybe we have some certain code that we want to use for each of the levels that, okay, we don't want to use the long names that we have here. So we can decide to give them codes. So that is what we did here. So let me use the last one. So FCT underscore drop. So I'll use this. So this is going to be, I'm looking at only the comedian variable. So I'll copy out I'll select all these code chunks and run. So now we look at my screen. We have all the levels changed to the codes that we gave to them. So we put the code on the left side and equate it to the name that is available before recoding. So we use the factor underscore recode to do this. So this brings us to the end of this class for this weekend, and I hope you all gained a lot from the class, and I'm looking forward to you all try your hands on the other functions that are within the forcats package. Thank you so much, and see you in the next class. Bye.